We are back again with some more Elohim and Anunnaki syncretisms alongside with the Netjeru, if there are any for some of these deities. And in this video, I'm going to be going over deities like Haran, Tammuz, Eshmun, Mot, Tahamatu, Yam, Naharu, Tanin, and I might even get to deities like Rahab or Lotan. So this is going to be pretty interesting for today because we're focusing on deities that have a strong sync over in the Netjeru or in the Kemetic pantheon of deities, and we also are looking at deities that have a strong sync in the Anunnaki, and these deities are also serpentine deities. You'll see a lot of these deities on this list. Especially this list, there are a lot of serpentine deities. And so first on the list that I'm going to start with is, I'm going to go with Haran, or he's known as Haranu. So Haranu is, I think it's very obvious to hear the Netjeru sync in his name, which is Heru or Horus. Now this will be a particular variant of Heru, which is Heru-er or Horus the Elder, and that's because of the role and the position that that Haran plays in the Elohim stories. He is not just a rising deity that is younger than Baal Hadad or any of these other deities. No, he's one of the first generations of Elohim, because he is the serpent that is in the garden that is enticing Eve. I know in some extra biblical text they call this serpent Gadriel or something like that, but Gadriel is technically just Haran. Haran is the deity that is in that story about the tree and Adam losing his immortality. Haran is part of the reason for that, because he poisons the tree. Because Haran also himself is a representative of the tree-like dynamics, or the threshold and wisdom that comes with being serpentine, but also having a role in the tree of life story. And his Anunnaki sync would be the tree of life type deity, or the good tree deity that we see known as Netjeru. The thing is, Haran has a perfect syncretism in the Netjeru being Heru-er, and under the Anunnaki, the best sync that I could find is Netjeru. While there are other deities that could be syncretic, this is the best that I could come up with due to their shared roles, being involved with the tree of life, or the good tree, and being involved with the fate of a people, or of the first man in that sense. So next up, I'm going to go to Tammuz. Tammuz is a very interesting deity because he is a dying rising god, and he is one of those Osiris or Asar type deities. So his restoration is brought upon with the help of other Anunnaki or Elohim, such as Astarte or Ishtar, because Tammuz is known by the Anunnaki, or under his Anunnaki name, Dumuzi, and he is the god of healing and seasonal changes, and the dying and rising god of both the Elohim and the Anunnaki, just as Asar is. He is Asar, just like Ishtar or Astarte is Aset. She is Isis. So we see this continuation of the same pairing of the same deities together across the different pantheons, across the Anunnaki, the Netjeru, and the Elohim. We have Ishtar and Dumuzi, we have Astarte and Tammuz, and we have Aset and Asar. You see? And then just like Tammuz, we have Eshmun, which is another healing or a type of restoration type deity that has not the exact dying or rising feats, but the restorative feats, the regenerative feats. He is a healing deity and a deity of magic. So His best Netjeru sync would also be a deity like Asar. Though if you wanted to, you could syncretize him with the deity like Heka, who is known for magic and known for healing and to restore. Another god similar to Eshmun or his Anunnaki counterpart would be a deity named Damu. And Damu is sometimes seen as a childlike deity, but he is another dying and rising or healing type deity, a deity of the vegetation, a deity of rebirth, a deity of restoration. He is seen very similar to Dumuzi or Tammuz or Eshmun. They did this a lot in the ancient Near East. They liked these type of deities, these dying and rising gods, and they tried to differentiate them by giving them different aspects of that process. So we see Asaluhi having one aspect, we see Tammuz having another, we see Eshmun having another, but you see they're all sharing in the same type of dying and rising god archetype. You know what I'm saying? So next up, I would say Tahamatu. Tahamatu is a very ancient deity. She traces back to the Anunnaki deity named as Tiamat, and she is known as the chaotic sea goddess or the god of chaos, the goddess of chaos. And while she isn't always seen as chaotic, in her later stories, they made her very chaotic, especially in the Enuma Elish during the times of Babylon, though she could also be seen as a benevolent deity in some variations, in her earliest variations possibly, and even possibly syncretic or known as Namu in earlier times. But either ways, Tiamat or Tahamatu is another obvious syncretism because she is a representative of the deep alongside the Apsu, which we're going to get to next with Yam. But her syncretism with the Netjeru would be with the deity known as Naunet or Nunet. Nunet is the consort of Nun, and this is the goddess of the deep, the goddess of the primordial waters, same as Tiamat. So when we go to Yam, who is the Elohimic variant of Apsu, and known as the Anunnaki god Apsu, we know that his Netjeru variant is Nun, the primordial god of the waters. So we see this continuation of the same type of deity. Tiamat and Yam, or Tiamat and Apsu, transferred over to Nun and Naunet or Nunet. You know, we see the same exact thing transferring over. So when we get to Yam's other counterpart, which is Judge Naharu, he is known as Judge River, and he is syncretic to Enbululu, which is literally an Anunnaki that is the son of Enki, which is quite obvious because Enki is the lord of the Apsu. He is the god of life and the god of the life-giving waters like the Apsu, and Enbululu is a river deity. Naharu is a river deity. Same type of deity. So Happy would be Naharu's Netjeru sync because this is the nectar of the Nile River. This is the nectar of the irrigations. So this is the similar type of deity that Judge Naharu is. And if you look into ancient Near Eastern cosmology, you'll see that Yam and Naharu are supposed to represent the sea or the ocean and the river. So they're trying to deify, or they're trying to have reverence for the same concept. Next up is Lotan, which is also known as Leviathan in the Bible. This is the giant serpentine-like deity or Elohim that Yahweh and Baal Hadad battle. And this deity, I would say, is also known under the Anunnaki as Mushushu or Muzuzu. So Mushushu is another serpentine-like deity that is also known by the Anunnaki as similar to Lotan. They occupy similar roles as battling other gods or being a danger to other gods and even other people, because we know that Lotan isn't just a danger to the gods. Lotan is a danger to other people at times, just by being the type of deity that he is. Not that Lotan is evil, not that Leviathan is evil, or that Mushushu is evil. It is just the role that they occupy. They are the dangers of the sea. While Yam and Naharu govern the sea, they are the dangers within the water. So his sync would be Apep. The Netjeru that is syncretic with Lotan or Mushushu would be Apep. This is another type of snake-like deity, a serpentine type deity. This is the great snake deity that we see from Kemet that battles other gods, just like Lotan, just like Mushushu. We see he's even an arch enemy to the god Ra, and that he is a deity that represents chaos, just like Lotan, just like Mushushu. We have another deity that is similar to Lotan or Mushushu and Apep, and that is Rahab. This is another serpentine type deity, except Rahab has 7 or 8 heads. And there is a Netjeru very similar to this that has 7 or 8 heads. And this Netjeru is known as Nehebku or Nehebkau. Now, Nehebku is a 7-headed deity that is of the chaos, just like all the other serpentine primordial deities are made out to be. And we see that there's an Anunnaki sync with this same type of role, such as Bashmu, which is another chaotic serpentine type deity. And we see that even the Anunnaki that is known as Bashmu is seen in another story similar to Tiamat or similar to Lotan or Yam and Naharu. He is seen being defeated by Ninurta, which is very similar to Marduk, who was syncretic with Baal Hadad in later times during the Babylonian period. So we see that they have a lot of serpentine type chaos deities, which may be hinting at something. Why do these deities always have serpentine iconography? Well, that is because that is a trope in the ancient Near East. Bull iconography and serpentine iconography were two of the main iconographies that you would see. They were two of the main ways that these gods were symbolized back in the ancient Near East, and even in Kemet, and even across Africa. Like, because Kemet is in Africa, but even in more parts of Africa. And Tannin also fits this chaos, primeval, or primordial serpentine type deity. Tannin is a lesser known Elohim type deity that is in the same type of archetype. And Tannin would be syncretic with the Anunnaki concept of Ker, which is another serpentine, chaotic type deity. We know that we need this balance across the cosmos. So these deities are to balance out the deities of order. So you have serpents of order and you have serpents of chaos. So Tannin or Ker would be serpents of chaos. And then Tannin and Ker's Netjeru sync would be Akek. Akek is a serpentine type dragon-like deity that used to battle the gods in primeval times. And this deity is seen very similar to Tannin, very similar to Ker. He was associated with the god Set. He was a deity of chaos and the primeval waters, just as many of these other serpentine deities are. And lastly, we have Mot. Mot is the god of death. He is the consumer of the other Elohim and of the dead of this world and of this realm, under the Elohim belief system, under the theology of the Semitic peoples. So Mot would be similar or syncretic with the god Namtar, who is a deity similar to Nergal, but he is also the king of the underworld, just like Mot. Mot is the king of the underworld that is slain by a gnat when he consumes Baal Hadad in the Baal cycle. But we see that he is very, very similar to the Anunnaki that is known as Namtar, which is another guardian of the underworld that judges the dead and consumes them. He is the natural entropy that has to come through and consume all that which dies. And then we see that he is syncretic with the Netjeru Anubis. Anubis, the god of the dead, the one who receives the dead and takes them to the afterlife. So these are the syncretisms that I've found between these deities and the Elohim, the Anunnaki, and the Netjeru. And once again, this is just another run through and a quick explanation of these deities and their role, and eventually we will get to explaining more about their stories, and you will be able to see more similarities as we go through. But I think we can all understand the deities that I was getting at in this video. We have the dying and rising deities, the Heru type deity in Haran, and we have the serpentine type deities like Yam, Naharu, Tahamatu, and Tanin, and Apep, and all of them. So we see that there are a lot of deities that are similar, but they are occupying different parts of a role, and they are taking action in which that is understood by these ancient people that we may not understand today. But this has been the Bonafide Truth. Tune in for more, because we have a lot more coming. There are a lot of deities, and I'm just getting started. So